Two internal documents surfaced today, and what they contain has already sent shockwaves through Washington. A shocking development has emerged from the sealed Epstein files, and what it reveals changes everything. Official records show statements made under oath that have never been publicly analyzed until now. These documents, released as evidence in a federal case, include emails, contemporaneous notes, and internal correspondence that connect one of the most powerful men in America directly to incidents that the public hasn't been told about. And make no mistake, this is not speculation. These are official records. Before we go further, subscribe right now, because what you're about to hear is not being explained clearly anywhere else. Here's where it gets startling. Among tens of thousands of pages of flight logs, court filings, and FBI reports, two statements about Donald Trump were flagged as particularly salacious in an internal FBI PowerPoint titled Prominent Names. Let me read this word for word. One line, redacted, describes a meeting facilitated by Jeffrey Epstein, where Epstein allegedly introduced a 14-year-old girl to Trump saying, "This is a good one, huh?" And Trump responded with a nod. Read that again. Epstein introducing a minor to an adult and making a suggestive remark, and it's documented in an official FBI briefing. But it doesn't stop there. According to the records, Epstein drove this young girl in a dark green car to Mar-a-Lago in 1994. Now, the FBI slide incorrectly lists the year as 1984. A typo, the documents clarify. But the testimony under oath confirms 1994. The victim recalls that Epstein presented her to Trump as his friend and elbowed Trump playfully, asking for confirmation about her. This is a good one, right? The documents describe Trump smiling and nodding. They both chuckled, and the girl, just 14, felt uncomfortable. Think about that. Too young to fully understand why. Official records and internal correspondence indicate this was not an isolated claim. The victim gave her statement multiple times to federal prosecutors, to FBI agents, and under oath during the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. The government considered her credible, and the jury convicted Maxwell of transporting this victim for sexual activity. That's the weight behind these statements. They were tested in court and upheld. Now, you have to ask yourself, could Trump genuinely have not known about Epstein's sexual interest in underage girls? The documents make this harder to believe. Compare his reactions to those of others present. An Epstein pilot testified at Maxwell's trial that the victim looked like a mature woman, but he also admitted he could not confirm whether she had even flown on Epstein's plane. That's what the records show. By contrast, the victim consistently told prosecutors that she looked nothing like a mature adult at age 14. And the internal correspondence isn't vague. It details exact dates, locations, and interactions. FBI agents recorded the meeting at Mar-a-Lago, noting Trump's presence at a dinner with Epstein and several other guests. Contemporaneous notes quote the victim saying, "He knew. There's no way he didn't know." Here's the part no one expected. The victim's brother corroborated her story. Under oath, he told federal agents and prosecutors that she had confided in him immediately after the meeting. Official records show prosecutors considered his testimony credible enough to place him on the witness list for Maxwell's trial, though he was ultimately not called, not once, not twice, but repeatedly. The files emphasize the credibility of both the victim and her brother. Now, to be clear, the victim did not accuse Trump of sexually abusing her, but her testimony and the official records paint a damning picture. They suggest Trump knew in 1994 that Epstein had a sexual interest in underage girls. And yet, according to contemporaneous notes and internal DOJ correspondence, Trump continued to socialize with Epstein. In 2002, the documents show Trump publicly praised Epstein, calling him a terrific guy, fun to be with, and likes beautiful women as much as I do. Many of them are on the younger side. Think about that. Here are the official records documenting it. That's a public statement echoing internal behavior patterns captured in FBI files. The DOJ tried to downplay the connection. Former Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche is quoted in internal memos as saying, "It's not a crime to party with Jeffrey Epstein." That line appears repeatedly in redacted correspondence. The files suggest a systemic minimization of behavior that should have raised alarms, behavior that enabled Epstein to exploit over 1,000 victims over decades. Epstein didn't hide his underage victims. Official photos in the files show girls attending dinners at Epstein's homes, traveling on his private jet, visiting Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and vacationing on Epstein's private island. Internal FBI notes repeatedly reference these images, sometimes with redacted captions. The records are meticulous. Dates, times, and names of adults present are listed. And yet the Justice Department and media largely ignored these details. Here's the broader pattern the files reveal. Powerful people, rich, connected, influential, knew about Epstein's crimes and did nothing. They maintained appearances, protected themselves, and allowed fear and trust to manipulate victims into silence. The FBI's own documents highlight this systemic failure. Contemporaneous notes state victims were conditioned to trust Epstein. They were terrified to speak out because of his powerful allies. Think about that. It's not just negligence. It's an entire ecosystem of complicity. Now, the analysis becomes unavoidable. These documents indicate behavior, not isolated incidents, but a repeated pattern. If this were anyone else, law enforcement would have intervened immediately. But when wealth and influence enter the equation, the stakes shift. You have to ask why. Why did the Department of Justice prioritize dismissing public outrage over investigating the credible testimonies detailed in the files? Why were FBI agents directed to highlight salacious statements in internal presentations rather than pursue the underlying crimes? The moral stakes are clear. Official records and witness testimony indicate a betrayal of public trust, not just by Epstein, but by those who could have intervened. The files demonstrate that the system in many ways protected the powerful at the expense of victims. Short sentences, deliberate pacing, and repeated emphasis in the files all point to urgency. The documents are precise, the dates exact, the locations verified, and the witnesses credible. There is no ambiguity in what these records communicate. Finally, the resolution is unavoidable. The Epstein files reveal a system tilted toward the powerful, a series of decisions captured in official records that enabled continued abuse. We've reviewed flight logs, emails, internal DOJ correspondence, court testimony, photographs, and contemporaneous notes. They converge to show a consistent pattern, knowledge of underage exploitation, and continued engagement with the perpetrator. The implications are long-term. They call into question not just personal accountability, but institutional integrity. The takeaway is simple. The victims have waited decades. The system has failed them repeatedly. Official documents, sworn testimony, and corroborating witnesses show that the powerful often escape scrutiny while the vulnerable bear the consequences. It is time to shift that balance. Accountability is not optional. The records speak for themselves. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, share this, and stay alert. Don't let anyone tell you this doesn't matter, because it does. The Epstein files are more than just a scandal. They are a roadmap of systemic failure, and you deserve to know what they reveal.